There is a moment that arrives in almost every relationship, and when it comes, most people completely misread it. It is the moment the spark goes quiet. Maybe 6 months in, maybe 2 years. The electricity that once felt like proof, the way your whole body lit up when their name appeared on your phone, the sense of being swept up in something larger than yourself. It fades. It does not vanish in a fight. It just quietly cools into something ordinary, familiar, sometimes a little flat. And in that moment, a thought appears, and it feels like a revelation. Maybe this is not real love. Maybe I have fallen out of love. Maybe I chose the wrong person and the right one is still out there. The one where the spark never dies. And so people leave, or they stay and quietly grieve, or they start scrolling again, looking for the next lightning strike. Because we have all been taught so deeply, we never even question it. That love is a feeling that happens to you, that it strikes like weather, unbidden and uncontrollable, and that its presence or absence is simply a fact you observe about yourself, the way you would notice it had started to rain. But what if that entire idea, love as a feeling you fall into and out of, is not just wrong, but is the precise reason you keep failing at the one thing you most want to succeed at? A psychoanalyst named Erich Fromm made exactly that argument in a small and quietly devastating book, and it may be the most useful thing anyone has ever said about love. Fromm knew something about the machinery of human need. He was a German psychoanalyst who left when the Nazis came to power, and he made his name with a book about why human beings are so desperate to escape their own freedom. Then in 1956, he published something that looked much softer, a slim book called The Art of Loving, which has quietly sold over 6 million copies since. And he opened it with a question that sounds almost too simple. Is love an art? Then he answered it, and the answer is the hinge everything else turns on. Yes, love is an art, and if it is an art, then it requires knowledge and effort exactly the way every other art does. You would not expect to sit down at a piano and simply play, or pick up a scalpel and simply perform surgery because you felt strongly enough. You would expect to learn, to practice, to be bad at it for a long time, to slowly develop a skill. Love, Fromm said, is no different. It is a discipline you learn, like music or painting or medicine, and almost nobody treats it that way. Almost everybody assumes that loving is easy, and that the only real difficulty is finding the right person to do it with. And Fromm said this gets the whole thing backwards, and he identified the specific mistakes we make, three of them that keep us failing. The first mistake is that most people think about love as the problem of being loved rather than the problem of loving. Think about how much of your energy across your whole life has gone into becoming lovable, into being attractive, being successful, being charming, being interesting, accumulating the qualities that would make someone want you. We treat it as a problem of how to be worthy of love, how to be chosen. And almost none of our energy goes into the actual capacity to love, into becoming someone genuinely able to give love. We are all trying to be worth loving, and almost no one is practicing loving. The second mistake follows from the first. Because we are so focused on being chosen, we come to believe that love is a problem of finding the right object rather than developing a faculty. We think, once I find the right person, loving them will be automatic, effortless, natural, as if love is simply the thing that happens when the correct person finally appears, and the entire challenge is the search. Fromm's response to this cuts deep. Love, he insisted, is not primarily a relationship to one specific person. It is an attitude and orientation of your entire character that determines how you relate to the whole world. If you are a loving person, you will love. If you are not, no perfect person will magically make you one. Looking for the right object while ignoring your own capacity to love is like someone who wants to paint and believes the only thing standing between them and a masterpiece is finding the perfect subject, when they have never once learned to hold a brush. And the third mistake is the one we started with, the misreading of the fading spark. Fromm said we confuse two completely different things and give them the same name. There is the initial experience of falling in love, that sudden intoxicating collapse of the walls between two strangers. And there is the permanent state of being in love, which he said we might better call standing in love. Falling in love is easy. It is often not even a choice. Two lonely people, each locked inside their own separateness, suddenly feel those walls come down, and the rush of that sudden intimacy is one of the most exhilarating experiences a human being can have. But it is by its nature temporary. The walls cannot stay down by magic, and when that first explosion inevitably fades, people who have confused the falling with the loving conclude that the love itself is gone, when in truth, the falling was never the love. The falling was just the beginning. It was the moment the door opened. Standing in love, staying, building is the actual art, and it starts precisely where the falling ends. Now, Fromm was writing in 1956, and here is where he becomes almost eerily prophetic, because he saw exactly what our culture would do to love, decades before it did it. He noticed that in a society organized around markets and consumption, human beings start to treat love itself as a marketplace. We approach it like shoppers. Each of us walks around with a sense of our own value, our looks, our income, our status, our charm, our exchange value, as Fromm put it bluntly. And we go out into the market looking for the best object we can get, someone whose value matches our own. Two people, he wrote, fall in love when they feel they have found the best object available on the market, considering the limitations of their own exchange value. Read that again and think about what it describes. Think about the swipe, the profile, the endless scrollable catalog of human beings, sorted, filtered, and compared. Think about the constant background awareness that there might be a slightly better option one more swipe away. Fromm described the psychology of the dating app half a century before the smartphone existed. And he saw the trap inside it, which is that the marketplace mindset locates the entire problem in the quality of the goods. It trains you to believe that your dissatisfaction means you have not found the right product yet. It never once suggests that the problem might be the shopper, that you might not yet be someone capable of love, no matter how perfect the person you find. So, if love is not a feeling that strikes you and not an object you find, then what is it actually? Here, Fromm makes his most important turn, and it reorganizes everything. Love, he said, is not primarily about receiving, it is primarily about giving. Most people trapped in the being loved mindset experience love as something they hope to get, a supply of warmth, security, and approval flowing toward them. Fromm says the mature person experiences it the opposite way. Love is an activity, not a passive thing that happens to you, and its central act is giving. But, and this is crucial, he does not mean giving as sacrifice, as depriving yourself, as the martyr who gives up everything and quietly keeps score. He means something richer. To give for Fromm is the highest expression of your own aliveness and power. You give the other person what is alive in you, your joy, your understanding, your humor, your interest, your sadness, all the living contents of yourself. And in doing so, you do not lose anything. You become more alive and you enhance the other's aliveness too. Giving, he wrote, is in itself an exquisite joy. The person who cannot give out of that inner abundance, who can only give in order to get something back, has not yet learned to love at all. And this reframes the deepest confusion of all. which Fromm captured in a single surgical contrast. Immature love, he said, says, I love you because I need you. It is love as dependency, love as filling a hole, love that reaches for another person the way a drowning person reaches for anything that floats. But mature love reverses it. Mature love says, I need you because I love you. First, there is the fullness, the capacity, the overflowing, and out of that fullness comes the need for a particular person to pour it toward. One is a hunger, the other is a gift, and most of what we call love and most of what breaks our hearts is the first kind wearing the costume of the second. But Fromm does not leave love as a beautiful abstraction. He gets specific about what the practice actually consists of. And he says that all real love, active love, contains four elements, and you can hear in them that these are not feelings, they are practices, skills, things you do. The first is care. Love is the active concern for the life and the growth of the person you love. If a woman told you she loved flowers, Fromm said, but you saw her forget to water them, you would not believe her. Love is not the feeling toward the flowers. It is the watering. It is the daily unglamorous labor of tending. The second is responsibility, which he strips of its heavy dutiful meaning and returns to its root. The ability and the willingness to respond, to be genuinely responsive to the needs of another person, not because you are forced to, but freely. The third is respect, and here he points to the word's origin, which means to look, to actually see. To respect someone is to see them as they truly are, not as an instrument for your needs, not as the character you cast them as, but as a separate person with their own reality, and to want them to grow and unfold for their own sake, not yours. And the fourth is knowledge. To truly love someone, you have to actually know them, to see past your own projections and fantasies to the real, specific, sometimes inconvenient human being who is actually there. Care, responsibility, respect, knowledge. Notice that not one of them is a feeling that happens to you. Every single one is something you choose to do and can get better at doing. And this leads to Fromm's most radical claim. The one that sounds strange at first, and then, if you sit with it, rearranges how you see the whole thing. Because love, he insisted, is not really about one special person at all. It is an orientation of your character toward everything. And so he wrote this: if I truly love one person, I love all persons, I love the world, I love life. If I can say to somebody, I love you, I must be able to say, I love in you everybody, I love through you the world, I love in you also myself. What he means is that love is a capacity, and if you have truly developed it, it does not point at only one target while leaving you cold to everyone else. The person who says, I love only you and I have contempt for everyone else in the world, is not, in Fromm's view, describing love. They are describing a kind of shared selfishness, what Fromm called a symbiotic attachment, an enlarged egotism, two people using each other as a private escape from the rest of humanity. Real love, the real capacity, makes you more loving, more open, more alive toward everyone, not less. Your beloved is not the exception to an otherwise closed heart. Your beloved is the place where an open heart happens to be pouring most fully. If loving one person made you colder to the world, Fromm would say you have not found love. You have found a comfortable hiding place. And underneath all of it is the deepest question, the one that explains why this matters so much, why we ache for it our entire lives. Fromm believed that love is the answer to the fundamental problem of being human, which is our separateness. We are the animal that knows it is alone. Each of us is sealed inside our own consciousness, aware that we are separate, aware that we will die, and that awareness, Fromm said, is the source of a deep and constant anxiety, the sense of being locked in a prison of aloneness. and human beings will do almost anything to escape it. We lose ourselves in crowds and conformity. We numb it with distraction, with substances, with work, with fleeting ecstatic highs. But most of those escapes either do not work or cost us ourselves. Love is the one answer that solves the problem without destroying you in the process. Real love is a union with another person in which the walls of separateness come down. And yet, crucially, you remain yourself. Two beings become one, and yet stay two. That is the whole miracle, and the whole difficulty, not to dissolve into someone else and not to stay locked alone. But the far harder third thing, to be fully joined and fully yourself at the same time. That is what is actually at stake when we talk about love, not butterflies. The oldest loneliness there is, and the only real cure for it. So, how do you actually practice an art like this? Fromm was clear that the practice of loving demands the same things the practice of any art demands. Discipline, so that you show up to it even on the days you do not feel like it, rather than only when the mood strikes. Concentration, the increasingly rare ability to be fully present with another person, undistracted actually there. Patience, because no art was ever mastered quickly, and anyone who wants instant results will never learn it. And what he called a supreme concern with mastery, caring about becoming good at it the way a serious musician cares about music rather than treating it as a pleasant side effect of finding the right person. But he named harder prerequisites too, and they are the ones most of us skip. The first is overcoming your own narcissism, learning to see the other person objectively as they actually are, instead of through the thick fog of your own needs, fears, and fantasies. Most relationships are not two people meeting, they are two people each in love with a projection and quietly furious when the real human underneath fails to match it. The second is faith, and not the blind kind. He meant the courage to commit and to keep giving without a guarantee of return. Because a love that demands certainty before it will risk anything is not love. It is a hedged bet, and the strangest prerequisite of all. The one that sounds like a contradiction. The capacity to be alone. Fromm insisted that the ability to be alone is the very precondition for the ability to love. Because if you cannot bear your own company, if you come to another person not out of fullness but to flee the silence, you will not love them. You will cling to them. And clinging, however desperate, is not the same as love. It is just fear with its arms wrapped around someone. So let us go back to that moment. We started with the moment the spark goes quiet. You can see now that it is not the death of love. It is the end of the falling. And the falling was never the love. It was the door opening. The quiet that comes after is not a signal that you chose wrong. It is an invitation, the exact moment the art begins. The moment you finally get to find out whether you can actually love or whether you only knew how to fall. The person who feels that quiet and immediately goes looking for the next spark is not being romantic and is not being honest with themselves. They are simply avoiding the apprenticeship, running from the workshop back out to the market, mistaking a chemical event for the deepest achievement a human being is capable of. Because here is the thing, no one tells you. The thing Fromm spent a whole book trying to say. You were never going to find the love you want. Finding was never the mechanism. You were always only going to be able to build it. And to build it, you have to become someone capable of building it. It is an art. Nobody is born knowing it. Nobody does it well at first. And like every art that has ever existed, the only way anyone has ever learned it is by practicing clumsily, sincerely over years, with care and responsibility and respect and knowledge, failing and staying and trying again. So stop waiting to be struck by lightning. Stop searching the catalog for a flawless object to complete you. Stop trying so hard to be worth loving and start learning Today, in the ordinary and unglamorous way all arts are learned how to stop looking for the right person and start patiently becoming one. If this is the kind of thing you want to keep thinking about, I have written two books that go deeper. The shadow you carry, about the disowned parts of yourself that you keep projecting onto the people closest to you, and on wanting, about why we chase what we chase and how little of what we want is truly ours. The links are in the description whenever you are ready.